So now what we're going to do is discuss some of the gear that we're going to see whenever we're getting ready to make a track, whether that's in the studio or at home. We'll talk about some of the basic equipment and basically what it does. Don't worry about the depth and real in-depth understanding of these things yet. We're gonna kind of go in and explain some of this stuff a little more later on. So the first thing we're going to talk about is microphones. Microphones are used to record audio. We take analog, real-world sounds, and we can then convert them into a voltage, which we can then eventually convert into digital, and that gets created in our DAWs as an audio file. There are a lot of different types of microphones that have different characteristics that make them sometimes better or worse for different situations. So you might have microphones that are good for singers, whereas other microphones are better for instruments. So microphones are going to be an integral part of any recording. Anytime we need audio to get recorded from the real world to our DAW, we'll be using microphones. Then we're going to be using microphone preamps and other outboard gear. Once we have our microphone selected, we need to use what's called a microphone preamp. And a preamp is an amplifier that's going to take our microphone level signal and bring it up to a line level, which is a workable level that we tend to use whenever we're dealing with audio. Sometimes we have hardware versions of preamps, and depending on what kind of a setup you have, we might have digital versions. Either way, preamps are a lot like microphones in that different preamps have different characteristics, making them better for different jobs. Some more integral pieces of gear to any recording are going to be compressors, EQs, and other types of signal processing effects. Like with our preamps, these can be either hardware components or they could be software components like plugins. Compressors are used to control our dynamic range. EQs are used to shape our frequencies, and other effects like reverb and delay can give us depth and character and space. So we tend to use these to make our audio sound tighter and or more exciting and interesting. If you've ever had to record a band or been in a band, you'll know that you use instruments like guitars and basses. A lot of times when we record guitars and basses, we're going to be using amps and cabinets. And a guitar amp is kind of similar conceptually to what a mic preamp is. And it's going to take that guitar signal, that instrument level signal, and it's going to bring it up to a line level. But a guitar amp can add much more tone and character to it. A lot of times when we listen to like an old rock track, we can hear the different tones that different bands have, and you can, once you get a good ear for it, you can start to pick up what kind of gear they were using. So your equipment like your amps and your cabinets can be really integral to a unique sound that you might be looking for you. Now, if you've ever looked at any pictures of a studio or been in a studio yourself, you might have seen something like what we've got here, a recording and or a mixing console. Now, these consoles are used to get different individual channels of audio so we can take multiple sources and manipulate the sound to record them into our multi-track and in most cases into our DAWs. So these recording and mixing consoles will typically have these other components built into them. The console we have here has equalization, it has compression, it has preamps built into it. So instead of having several different pieces of gear, you can have it all in one place. Now, most people are not going to have a recording console at their home studio. So DAWs now tend to take the place of the recording console. Now, I keep using this word DAW. What is a DAW? Well, a DAW is a digital audio workstation. There are several DAWs that can be used when creating music, but the idea of the DAW is the same across the board. It's a place that we can record, edit, and manipulate any audio that we want. The mixing can be done in here, the mastering can be done in here, but it's gonna be software that's all gonna be contained within our computer. The last piece of gear we'll talk about for now is gonna be the audio interface. Now, the audio interface is a crucial and integral part of any recording setup. And what the audio interface is going to do is it's going to take this real world sound, this analog audio, and it's converting it into digital audio that we can actually record. Computers use digital, where the real world is in analog. For a typical home setup, you'll have an audio interface that will do both the A to D and the D to A process. So the interface will convert your analog audio to digital audio and then back from your digital audio to analog audio so we can play it back and hear it. Now that we've talked about some of the gear that we're gonna see, we're gonna get into this idea of signal flow.